often see a lot of comments from people asking what the best settings are when you're filming indoors with the Osmo Pocket 3. So if you're in like a studio setting, you're in a room and you just want to get the best quality the best quality footage and audio, I guess. But I would say that it's definitely going to come down to the lighting that you have in your room in order to get the best quality. At the moment, I'm just shooting in the normal color profile and my EV meter set to -1. And I've got two lights on in my room. So I've got one where I will have it set to, what's it on at the moment? It's at 60%, and the light is bouncing up to the ceiling so that it's flooding more light into the room. And then I've got another light which I have kind of facing me, so it's at like a 45-degree angle, kind of up facing down. So that's kind of how I have my light whenever I film in my room anyway. That's how my light is kind of set, so that it lights me in that way, so that I have a bit of light to the side of my face and then shadow on the other side, so it gives a bit more contrast. And yeah, that's kind of how I have things set up. In terms of whether to use the normal color profile or the low light video mode, I personally think that the normal color profile does a really good job, and I don't think that when you're indoors, if you can control your lighting, that you really need to set it to low light video mode. I'd only really do that if I was filming outdoors late at night and it was actually dark. But as long as you have your light set up in a way that makes the room have more light rather than having more darkness in the room, then you're probably going to get really good quality from your footage. Okay, so now that it's nighttime, I thought I'd just give you an idea of what it looks like in here when there's no light coming through the big window or the little window that's behind me. So it's completely nighttime. It's like 8:30 at the moment. And when it's nighttime, I tend to have my lighting a little bit moodier. So I wouldn't film with the normal color profile, because what that does is tries to give you the best possible image straight out of the camera. So it processes the image, and that means that it also tries to brighten up the image because it wants the image to look as good as possible. Whereas if you shoot in D-Log-M, then you don't get that. So I've now just switched over to the D-Log-M color profile, and you'll see that I have also converted it to a normal color space. So with D-Log-M, there's no processing that goes on, so your footage will look as it looks when you film it, which means that now I have a lot more contrast. So I have more light on the right side of my face and then more dark on the left side of my face, because the big light that I have facing me is on my right side. So you can see, like in the corner there at the back, I've put on a light behind the plant, fake plant, but I put a light behind the plant, and I'm still kind of experimenting with lighting it myself. So this is all based on just my experimentation and what I think looks good in here. But lighting is one of those things that I'm constantly learning, but it just gives you an idea of the kind of settings that you can use and try out for yourself and try and get the kind of look that you want whilst you're in your own room indoors. I realised that there was one thing that I forgot to mention last night, and that's when you're indoors and the light levels are quite low, if your ISO is set to something which is quite low as well, so say it's between 50 to 200, then your shutter speed can sometimes drop quite low as well. So it can sometimes go to 1/30th of a second, which is a little bit too slow, because you'll get motion blur, which is just kind of too smeary. It's kind of like a creative effect rather than it being natural. So depending on your frame rate, you want to try and keep your shutter speed above 1/50th. And the way to do that is just to increase the ISO. So if you set your ISO, instead of having it to something which is like 100 or 50 to 200, then just try setting it to 50 to 400, and that will help with the shutter speed. And you'll be able to see the shutter speed in the top left corner of the screen, and just adjust the ISO just until the shutter speed goes up a little bit. So if you were shooting with a frame rate of 30 FPS, for example, then your shutter speed is going to be 1/60th of a second, so you can adjust the ISO till your shutter speed gets to that point. Or if you're shooting at 25 FPS, then it's going to be 1/50th of a second, and if you're shooting at anything higher than that, then yeah, you will probably need to increase your lights a lot more, or just really crank up the ISO. But that's just a quick tip. This is what happens when I don't plan my videos. So I've got one more thing that I forgot to say. So when you're indoors and you're filming with lights and your lighting is completely controlled, what you want to do is set your white balance to the same Kelvin value as your lights. So every light has a specific Kelvin value. It might have a range, or it might just have a hard set Kelvin value. So the lights in my room are 5600 Kelvin. That's just basically the temperature of the lights, the Kelvin value. So if you can set your white balance to the same Kelvin value as your main light, then it means that the colours in your scene are basically just going to be as natural as they can be, and just how they should look based on what the scene looks like at that time. So yeah, just another quick tip. So if you want to see all my settings in one place and you just want a little bit more clarification for the different settings as well, then I do have a free guide and a cheat sheet on my website that you can check out. The link's in the description. And if you want to see what the footage looks like in terms of the settings that I use whilst I'm filming outdoors as well, then you can watch the next video.